Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
So welcome back to Zero Dark Nerdy, the world's most notorious pop culture podcast. This is your boy Brian, a.k.a. El Nino, and today I'm joined with...
Ryan Saber, Captain Cleveland Browns, most importantly, Browns, Cavs, Indians. We are less than 2 weeks away from the kickoff of the NFL season, September 13th. Get ready, Bake Show Season 3 is upon us.
I remember you saying that last year as far as the Bake Show, but I'm pretty sure you lost like right out of the gate. But, I'm going to let Brad introduce himself real quick.
You're hurting my feelings.
He can't help that he's a Browns fan. Leave him alone. And I'm Brad Lambert, producer, talent manager, speaker out in Hollywood.
Extraordinaire. Brad Lambert, extraordinaire.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
And thank you for coming back. Brad, of course, has been on the episode a few times. We're actually we were going to kick off this What's Good in Hollywood segment once a month. And, this is kind of like the prequel to it, I guess, because of unfortunate circumstances. But, we are going to catch up with Brad on a monthly basis starting tonight. And then, of course, next month, at least one Thursday a month. So you guys can kind of chime in, talk about favorite movie trailers. Movies are coming back into the fold, things like that. But right now, the whole episode is going to be all things Chadwick Boseman. It was a huge loss to not just the Marvel community, but honestly, I feel like the cinematic community in general. I feel like he was hitting his stride. To me, it's comparable to when we lost, and granted we were not born then, but when we lose greats like James Dean and Bruce Lee and characters like that only came out with a few movies and multiple TV roles, but still it felt like he had so much left to offer, and the fact that nobody knew about it besides his own family. So, we're going to start this off as just a roundtable conversation. We're going to start with Brad, our man with the feet on the street out there in Hollywood, and just kind of, give us your thoughts and your take. And of course, obviously what's been going on with, whoever you've been kind of conversing with ever since this has happened. Did somebody say playoffs?
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
That's right. NBA, Major League Baseball, and NHL are in full swing, and our partners at BetOnline have you covered. So take full advantage of sports being back and get in on the action with hundreds of odds, futures, and props for you to bet on. And there is always the online casino as well, as it never closes. So head to betonline.ag today and sign up to receive your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's betonline.ag and sign up today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook expert.
Yeah, I mean, the loss of Chadwick is devastating, not only to the Marvel universe or film in general, but just the culture. He was such a light of positivity and giving and kindness, the likes of which, like, the dude's fighting for his life. He's fighting cancer himself while simultaneously visiting sick kids who are also fighting cancer. It just shows you that, when you're able to be kind to others, when you're suffering, that is the ultimate strength. So for me, it was something that I really admired about him and respected about him. And it's a tremendous loss for the industry, for just, not being dramatic, but humanity. He was a good guy doing big things for a lot of people, and he changed the way the industry looked. He made it much more diverse, which I think is a beautiful thing, as it should be. And he paved the way for likes of Simu, who's playing in the new Legend of the Ten Rings, Shang-Chi. So really opening up the industry and making it more diverse and inclusive, which is so important. And he was just constantly giving. I had the opportunity to meet Chadwick once. It was at the Age of Ultron premiere, 2015, 2016-ish. And it was shortly after he was announced that he was cast as Black Panther and T'Challa. So he was just coming off of the movie Draft Day, which is a very niche film, but if you're a football fan, I guarantee you've seen it. and played the character Vontae Mack, and he did a tremendous job in the film. And I quickly grabbed him on the carpet and showed some love, and he was kind of floored that I saw that movie because it was a very small title, and he took a lot of pride in that. Was very grateful and kind, and that's just what you heard about Chadwick in the industry. Is he was just constantly kind and warm and giving, and just yeah, he will be missed, and that's probably the biggest quality that I respect and admire the most in people is kindness and giving and love, and he embodied that, and there's gonna be a huge void as Downey put recently, for other people to step up and kind of spot.
If he was floored that you'd seen that movie once, I wonder how he would have felt that I've seen it like 400 times.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, it was funny as we started this episode. I was thinking, like, dude, like, put something else on. Like, why are you wearing a Browns hat? We're trying to respect and celebrate Chadwick. And then I remembered that this is the one time you can, I guess, wear your hat with pride.
Vontae Mack, no matter what.
No matter what, because that was like the one time in team history where they were winners. Too bad as it was.
No, we weren't. We were still losers. We had the number one pick in that movie too.
Yeah, but they set the team up for an outrageous, successful seasons to come.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that too, as far as draft day, because this is kind of technically, I wouldn't say the second time he's played a Browns player. Like his first major league debut was on the Express.
He played Floyd Little.
Floyd Little. And the Express is one of my favorite movies because I am from upstate New York. Like I remember my dad telling me stories about Ernie Davis, the Elmira Express. And, before him was Jim Brown. And a lot of people don't understand that the reason Jim Brown even got to start at Syracuse was because the first three running backs all got hurt. And Jim Brown was one hell of a lacrosse player, which anybody from upstate New York would tell you, lacrosse is embedded in you from like fifth grade. Like you are supposed to play lacrosse, plain and simple. Like I know nowadays, like lacrosse players look like rich kid douchebags, but in upstate New York, like you played lacrosse and you played football and you played whatever you could. So
we love lacrosse players. So I don't believe that. Whatever.
No, I never have. And honestly, I did not understand that until I moved down here, where there was like that rep. Because even when I lived in New York and Michigan, like if you played lacrosse, you were awesome, and then you also learned that that's where Jim Brown came from. So hence Ernie Davis, and then that was actually Chadwick's first major movie role was as Floyd Little. Yep. So and it's just one of those things to where it's just crazy that he is, whether if it's a small character or, somebody like Jackie Robinson in 42, he has been a part of movies where they relate to like Black historical figures doing their thing.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say Spike Lee was talking about, they interviewed him for the Five Bloods, and they talked about why they cast Chadwick in that role, and the character that he played was a superhero. And he said, I mean, this guy, Jackie Robinson's a superhero. Thurgood Marshall, James Brown, T'Challa, those are superheroes. Yeah. We had to get this guy to play a superhero.
Yeah.
And that's, when you hear about Chadwick's career early on, he was known for turning down stereotypical roles.
That's right. Yeah. My Children thing.
And he really kind of created a reputation for someone who was so outspoken about that. And he took it upon himself to really take on roles that would make a difference and bring light to a situation. And
it's interesting.
My goodness, he did that.
It's interesting you bring that up because, I had seen that Howard commencement speech, and I'll reference it again, when I go through my little spiel here. But one of the things, he talked about that role on All My Children. Shockingly enough, that's how he met Michael B. Jordan, and Michael B. Jordan actually took that role over. But
I did not know that.
That was Chadwick's first role, first real role, and he was on the show for 2 days. And he auditioned for it, and they said, and if you ever need anything, and if you guys haven't watched the Howard commencement speech from 2018, watch it. It's 35 minutes. It's riveting. But, they said if you ever need anything, let us know. So 2 days in, they came back and they brought him into the office, like the producers and all that of All My Children. They said, we love what you're doing. We want you to be here for a really long time. Is there anything we can do? And he said that he had an opportunity to, that was his opening. So the character that he was playing was sort of a gang member, a stereotypical, black kid, right? And, his question was, I don't necessarily have an issue with the way this role has been written, but I have two questions for you. Where's my father? And they gave him some stereotypical answer. And number two, why can't we live with our mother? And they said, and he talked about this in the interview. He said, well, because she's a heroin addict, of course. And he's like, well, I guess that could be true. So, even as a young man, I believe he was 17, 18 years old, had no acting chops, had no resume. He had beliefs. He had, courage, right? The courage to stand up and say, you know what, this is not right for me. And then, went on with his career and struggled. And one of my most memorable things about him, I'll talk about later. But, that was sort of the jumping off point. And obviously it made him who he was. So very interesting.
Yeah, you talk about courage, but the one thing that Chadwick also talked a lot about was purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And he understood his purpose. And he lived his purpose with each and every day, with each and every role, with each and everything that he got involved in. Like I said, man, it's a huge void just of someone who was just so selfless in the way he carried himself, and was such an impactful guy on and off screen. It's heartbreaking.
For those people, not everybody is well versed in Chadwick Boseman, right? I mean, they may just know him as T'Challa. So I think, I wanted to just provide a little bit of a background.
Yes, please.
Chadwick Boseman, 43 years old, was born and raised in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He studied directing at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and this is where it really gets interesting. One of his teachers was Phylicia Rashad. And for anybody that grew up in the 80s, everybody knows Phylicia Rashad is Claire Huxtable from The Cosby Show. Mm-hmm. So she was one of his teachers, and she utilized one of her really good friends, Denzel Washington, to sponsor a group of kids, a couple kids that had an opportunity to go to the British American Drama Academy to really kind of at Oxford to become directors. This guy played Jackie Robinson. He played James Brown. He played Thurgood Marshall. He played T'Challa. Brad talked about Vontae Mack, but his true passion, even though he played all these iconic characters, the most iconic being Vontae Mack, his true passion was writing and directing. He studied to be a director. That was his true passion. And this is where it starts getting interesting and gives you a real perspective of who he was as a person. He only became an actor to learn and be able to better relate to actors to improve as a director. That is the true mark of genius, when you have a person that understands the big picture, has sort of the role that they want to play, but they see value in all the other folks in the value chain around that role and understanding what they do to make them better at what they do. And that, to me, was a true indicator of who he was as a person. He was a movie star first, right? But above all, he was an artist. The guy was very artistic. He brought grace and presence to all of his roles. He was full of charisma and life, and I think you can see it, that smile, the energy on the screen, just the way he carried himself. He was a king. He was T'Challa. His true power was bigger than movies or acting, though, right? And I think anybody will agree with this next statement that I'm going to make. He inspired a generation of people and changed the perception of not only what a superhero could be, but he changed the perception of what a superhero is.
Yeah.
right? It's not this rough and tumble, bang them up. You can be this graceful person that lives life with purpose and does all these different things with, you know, regal and honor. You saw the politicians, you saw the actors, you saw the athletes, LeBron, Lewis Hamilton, soccer players in the Premier League honoring him on the field. I mean, he transcended sort of the movie and TV realm and went outside of that. I thought the statement, and I talked about this on our interview last night with Yes Weekly a little bit. I thought the statement by Ryan Coogler, the director of the Black Panther, was, you know, extremely touching and profound. You know, he described Chad as a leader, as a man of dignity, and he talked about him being an epic fireworks display on screen, which I thought was spot on. Especially, I think about that first scene of Get On Up, where he's walking around as old James Brown in a bathrobe with a shotgun. You're like, what is this, right? An epic fireworks display on screen, you know. And I thought that article, that letter by Ryan Coogler, was very sort of you know, the selfish isn't the word I want to use, but it was just very human, because he talked about, through all this honor and everything, he talked about how he was broken over the fact that he, you know, not only was this guy my friend, but I'm never going to be able to see him in that screen again or ask him to do another take, you know. And the other piece that I thought was the most touching is, you know, I've known this guy for 4 years, and he's been dealing with cancer and pain and dealing with it for the entire time that I've known him. And I thought that was, you know, to have a friend for that long and not understand that he was going through those kind of things. I mean, he talked, like you said, he talked about how he was visiting sick kids. Ryan Coogler talked about during quarantine, how he was sending him vegan recipes and making sure his family was eating right. So this is the last thing I want to say about this, because this is very touching, and I think that it's very profound. I'm going to pick up my notes and I'm going to read a little bit, because I think this is really important. I talked about that commencement speech from 2018 at Howard University. It's, like I said, 35 minutes long. I really wish that everybody would go watch it, but I think the one piece that I took out of it is, relative to anybody at any time in their lives, probably even more relevant now. And, you know, this is a long spiel, and I kind of paraphrased it, but what Chad said was, sometimes you need to feel the sting of defeat to activate the purpose, the word that Brad used, purpose, that is predestined inside of you. The struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. We in our lives get caught up in, I didn't get this, I didn't get that job, I didn't get that role, I didn't, you know, get the starting quarterback job. We oftentimes get caught up in the things that we didn't achieve in our lives, but we never take the time to analyze how those failures shaped us and helped us get to who we were really supposed to be. You know, I don't want to steal a line. You know, what did Downey say in Endgame? Part of the you know, the journey is the part of the story that matters, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing that as well. But, you know, I think the reality is that we can all learn a lesson from this young man who has now passed away, and you know, is that, don't get caught up in the goal. Focus on the things, the bumps, the challenges, the opportunities along the way that shape you to be the person that you really want to be. So I love it. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the mic and the stage.
Beautiful.
No, that's well said. And, you know, Brad, before we get to you, I mean, you know, one of the things that Ryan and I enjoyed on our conversation with you is we feel you obviously have that same mentality.
No doubt.
And that's why we hit it off from the gate. You know, there's so many people, and I mean, we've all done it. I've been guilty of it, where I'm like, I'm not where I'm quote unquote supposed to be at yet. And, you know, as I've gotten older, I've finally gotten to be like, you know what, everything, to be cliche, does happen for a reason. And, you know, the fact that this gentleman was dealing with this and nobody knew except for his immediate family, and he still was going out there and signing autographs for kids and doing whatever. And I mean, still, you know, I mean, up until obviously recently, you know, at the top of his shape. You know, I didn't see his last social media message.
I saw it.
And, well, no, I saw it after the fact.
No, I saw it at the time.
I hated so much that that there were, of course, trolls out there doing what they do, and that's exactly what they do, plain and simple. I tell, and I've told you guys this. My daughter, she's trying to be a director in film. I'm like, people are gonna hate on your shit no matter what. Like, you just need to do what makes you happy. And Brad, that's why we love talking to you, and that's why you're such an inspiration for us and being a part of the show.
Thank you.
So we're glad that this gentleman got to spend, instead of spending those last days with people kind of being like giving them, and I mean, I can only imagine, I can't speak for him, obviously, but if I were to tell you guys, I only had but so long to live, you're going to have those conversations where everybody's kind of looking at you at a certain way. And he didn't want to have that happen. Obviously he had that conversation with his family, but I mean, obviously still a terrible loss, but at the end of the day, though, I mean, the courage and everything that he did to play these amazing roles while battling through that, like, I choked up a little bit the other day talking to my daughter about it because, she's a comic book fan, but she's not a comic book fan like you and I are. She likes some films. She loves Black Panther. And, she was like, damn, Dad, why? And I was like, like I said, I started tearing up. I said, I don't know why, honey. Apparently God needed him more than we did.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was just kind of like my part about it. So, Brad, if you want to keep going before I actually
I want to touch on a few things. I didn't know Chadwick personally. I've met him, and people in the industry I'm connected to know him, but he didn't want cancer to define him.
Right.
And that is powerful.
Yeah.
And he also, the roles he did, he wasn't doing it for him. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Like, doing Black Panther, what he sought out to do with Black Panther. And I want to say Hollywood Reporter just released a few articles today talking about Chang, that it was his immediate family, his agent, and his trainer that knew.
Right.
Kevin Feige didn't even know.
Yeah.
And that is just like, that's
Crazy.
how close to the vest that he kept this. And, that is something to be admired, because we could all fall in the, pity party, everybody shower me with love. But he did not want that.
Yeah.
And his agent, I believe his name is Michael Green, was talking about that, saying that his mom instilled that in him, that it's not about you. So stop having people fuss over you, And once again, going back to how selfless he was.
Yeah.
That's right there. And going back to things happen for a reason. I actually had a conversation with a friend the other day, and she was expecting a phone call on an opportunity. And she was like, today's the day, it's today's the day something's going to happen. And she didn't get the call. And I said, look, not getting a call is still something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it like that,
That's
you know? So, it might not have been what you expected, but at the same time, something happened, and it was the lack of something happening to which it was, something happening. So that was just a perspective play on that, where it's like, well, I guess the fact that nothing happened means something happened. So, okay, cool.
Right.
Now I can take that, and, the brilliance that you spoke about, Seba, of how Chadwick would try to get involved in every aspect of the industry.
That's right.
So he could understand how each individual piece of the machine worked, because then he could control the entire machine.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's something that I respect and admire about him, because I'm the same way out here. I wear many different hats. I want to learn as much about the industry as possible so I can move effectively and be impactful in the stuff that I do. So that's something that, Chadwick is just, Michael B. Jordan talked about it. He's devoted the rest of his life to living as Chad did. And that's something that, I try to live a very purposeful life. And now even more so, I'm fired up to just, I think that's look at the response. You talked about that all across the world.
Yeah.
His post was the most liked tweet ever.
That's right.
And that's like, that just shows you the impact on a global scale that this one person had.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, he was a superhero and he played one on TV and film. Like, it's not about that. It's about his impact. and what he stood for, his character, his reputation, how he treated other people. And that is what matters. That's how people will remember you. You know, Maya Angelou's quote, famous quote, you know, they'll remember how you made them feel.
That's
That
right.
is the only thing how people remember. They'll forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And that's something that's so impactful. So like for me, like I try to go day-to-day basis and make sure that I'm impacting people in a positive way and leaving a lasting impression. I hope that I have a fraction of impact that Chadwick did when my book closes. You know, that's something we all should strive for, because that is a meaningful and lasting impression that, you know, he'll live forever, right? That's what impact is. So you may make millions of dollars, you may be a flash in the pan famous person, but like, will people ultimately remember you? What kind of impact and change did you instill, not only for yourself but the people around you? And that's what Chadwick did, and that's why he's mourned so much across the globe, and people don't understand that. You know, oh, he's just a movie star. Nah, dude. No, he's not.
More than that.
And,
Way
Br-
right. And, you know, we unfortunately went through that last year, or maybe the year before. It was when Stan Lee passed.
Yeah.
You know, when we were doing a Stan Lee tribute episode, because, you know, Stan Lee has had such a great, profound effect on our life. And then you had people out there like Old Boy on HBO, who actually made a freaking appearance on Spider-Man and got cut. I can't think of his name right now. Bill Maher. You know,
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher, that's it. You know, made that asinine comment about, you know, all these fanboys out there crying or whatever. It's like, hey, you were in an MCU film. I'm sorry that your scene got
Some
cut
people
out.
don't get it, man.
Hey, jealousy's a bitch, man.
Yeah,
Jealousy's
You know,
a bitch.
and that's my thing too. It's like, yes, we are mourning someone who happens to be a part of the MCU, but I can tell you right now, because of his other roles, you know, on 42 as James Brown, like this is still a gigantic loss to the community. And just like you were saying too, Brad, like everything he's done for so many people, like every video I ever see of Chadwick is him going to like visit people or like hanging out with Jimmy Fallon and that whole thing when people were coming up and they thought they were talking to a Black Panther poster and didn't know that he was behind the poster.
Yeah.
Genius,
you know what I mean? Like all that. And he knew like how much this role meant. And I talked to Save about this when I went to go first see Endgame for the first of many times. It was, you know, Black Panther before that introduced a lot of, you know, people of color to the MCU. And, you know, we all get it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a great movie. He's a fantastic character. And then at the end of Endgame, when he goes,
Infinity
half
War.
the movie theater was
Infinity War.
yeah. And they were like, we just got him. You know what I mean? And that was their reaction. It's like, we just got like our black superhero. And like, are you telling me that he's gone now? Wow. And, you know, unfortunately, they didn't know the story. They didn't know anything else. But at the same time, not only did he uplift an entire culture to let them know that, hey, listen, anyone, it's almost like Tony Stark. Like, well, don't get me wrong. I mean, we all love Tony Stark, but it does take billions of dollars to make those suits. But at the same time, though, where it was like, you know, especially for people of color, like, you know, I can be a king too. I can also do these things as well. Where before that, it was really just kind of Blade. And that was it. And Blade was just more of a vigilante, which I love the Blade movies. We all know, we talk about the Blade movies all day long. But, you know, he was a vigilante to where it's like you can actually be a king, you know, kind of coming from nothing and do whatever you want.
Brad, you talk about, you know, lasting impression and impact. I think the one thing that everybody should remember is this. In Endgame, when they come back, the first person to walk through the portals is T'Challa. And saying that just gave me chills.
Yeah.
So the first time everybody that's watching this and everybody out there that views this and listens to this, watches Endgame, remember that when they all come back, when you hear Cap on your left and the portals start to open, that the first person that's going to walk through that portal is Chadwick Boseman. And it's going to feel a lot different this time. It felt like, remember, everybody was crying and sad and hearing. It's going to feel that way every time.
Well, what I haven't I want to watch Black Panther, but I don't know if I have the strength to do so right now.
Yeah.
Right.
I passed up a couple watch parties celebrating him. I just like, there's one line in Black Panther when that air vehicle crashes, and then he gets up on top of it, and his mask disappears, and he goes, I never yielded, and
Yeah.
as you can see, I am not dead.
Yeah.
And that he knew what he was fighting in that moment. Personally, he was fighting cancer when he said that.
Yeah.
So everything just hits different now, and
Yeah.
it's the death is not the end, it's a stepping off point. Like all these iconic leadership spiritual quotes that came from T'Challa and his culture in Black Panther with the Wakandans and just all of it. It was just, it's such a, you know just a tragedy. And it's I saw he was at a Steeler game, Saba, last year. He went to a preseason game, and all my guys were taking pics with him, and I was looking at the pictures, and my first thought, and not in a negative derogatory way whatsoever like the trolls, but
Sure.
my first gut thought was he's not well. And that, I don't know why, but that
Right.
was I was like, he's sick. Like he looked very thin.
Yeah.
He looked older. And once again, I'm not being derogatory or
Sure.
negative.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
Chadwick, but my first, like, oh my God, like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when nothing came out after that, those photos that were released, I was like, all right, maybe he's just going, Christian Bale on a roll and
Well,
just
that's what I was
diving in.
thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
But once again, my thing was like, this was right after Endgame, bro. So he dropped a ton of weight, and like it wasn't like a healthy weight drop. For me, it just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It was my gut. My gut was like, something's wrong.
No, I
and
hear
and
you. I hear
and I
you.
just, nothing was ever like, generally you have, oh, so and so sick after a picture like that comes out, but like nothing came out. So I was like, all right, maybe I'm just, I'm wrong. God bless. I hope he's okay. And then when the news hit, my buddy called me, and I was like, no, this is
Yeah.
fake. This is not real.
Yeah.
And then my first thought was that photo,
I
and
think
I
it's
didn't even. Yeah, I didn't even see the live stream that he recently did. I didn't see that most recent, July, August stuff
Yep.
that hit.
Mhm.
I'm referring to what I saw last July, August.
So I saw it, and just like you said, I thought the Christian Bale reference that you made
Yeah.
is exactly what I thought of at the time. I thought he was
Yeah.
just doing some crazy Christian Bale weight loss for some role,
Yeah.
or that he had like gone like super vegan and really cleaned up his
Yeah, yeah.
diet, because you see lots of times when people go on crazy vegan or keto diets, like they thin,
Yeah.
they lean out a lot. So I think that it's just really ironic that a guy who clearly valued privacy so much,
Yeah.
had the most liked tweet ever on social media. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just, it's sort of a complete just the conflict of
Yeah.
who he was as a person. But
Right.
like you said, people loved him, man. So
It just shows his level of impact and the admiration that people have, and the respect. I mean, look at the cast reading those posts and those statements. It's just heartbreaking, man. Like,
yeah, all of them.
Letitia Wright put up this like 8-minute IGTV video, and it's
Yep.
like flowers and sunsets and ocean, and she's doing VO, and I was like, oh my God, like it's
Yeah.
just, I can't imagine, just for the fact that I always try to leave each and every day with good vibes and
Mhm.
no regrets and no ill will or beef with anyone, because you just don't know. You just don't know when your book's going to close.
Yeah.
So I mean, I talk to my mom 15 times a day. I talk to my grandparents all the time. Like, my closest people, I keep them so incredibly close for that reason.
Yeah.
And those people, even Kugler and Michael B, were like, I thought we had more time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and that is so devastating to hear,
Yeah.
because you made, like, Kugler was writing lines for Chadwick to say
Right.
in Black Panther
Yeah.
Right.
2. Like, dude,
Right.
like they just, in the article I mentioned earlier, Feige was sent an alert, an urgent email saying like regarding Chadwick Boseman, and by the time he saw it, Chadwick had passed
That's
an hour
crazy,
later.
man. And
And
that's what I told we were Brian and I were together.
Yeah.
When we found out last Friday night, we were celebrating a friend's birthday party, and I looked at him and I said, "Man, I bet you Disney doesn't even know about this because it just feels like if people had known, they would have made it a bigger deal."
Oh,
You know, so
1,000%.
I just knew. I knew that nobody could have possibly known because you can't keep a secret like that.
No.
Well, dude, they did, and that's what's just credit to his inner circle for respecting him and his wishes. But I'm just, it's just so sad and devastating to just think about, what he went through and how selfless he was in that journey for the last 4 years, man. Civil War. I mean, he had everything going during Infinity War, Endgame, Black Panther. Like he did all of that, including like a handful of other films. And it's just, I try to think about, the article was also talking about how Chadwick was confident that he was going to beat this. Like he was trending in the right direction, and then something took a turn for the worst, and that was it. And it's devastating, man. And I just, thoughts and prayers to his loved ones, and he's definitely going to be missed.
Exactly. Thoughts and prayers to the Boseman family. I mean, the guy was. He was on his way to being the next Denzel. I mean, let's be real here. Just for the short
100%.
catalog that he had, I know that we talked before, we went live, he's going to be compared to James Dean and Bruce Lee, like people that were unfortunately cut short before their prime. And, it breaks my heart. It does. And this is not, again, this is beyond MCU. This is someone that was
100%
so selfless. Just a great person.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm getting choked up over here, but being a dad
rightfully
myself,
so.
He's got a family, and for him to do all that, it's amazing. I mean, again, big props to the Boseman family out there. So, sorry, it's the first time I ever cried on screen, but yeah, I mean,
rightfully
the guy
so.
was literally a true talent and thought about others before him and for his family and all of them to keep it a secret.
He was a real king, man. And that everybody keeps saying rest in power, king. And it's rightfully so. I mean, it was that impact and the caring for others first and foremost. And he proved that day in and day out. And thinking back to that one, I think it was Sirius XM, where he sat down with the cast.
Yep, that's what it was.
And he was talking about the kids who were fighting cancer and how they said, we just have to stay alive to see this movie.
That's right.
And Chadwick started to cry.
Yep.
And looking back now, that hits different, man. Like he was fighting his own battle of cancer simultaneously. It's just like I can't say enough about Chadwick, and I wish I would have had more opportunities to speak with him. You kind of take those opportunities for granted, and I'll see him at the next premiere, or
right?
Because I spoke to him, like I said, Age of Ultron, and then I saw him at Infinity War and Endgame, and he was actually at the Captain Marvel premiere. And you just kind of be respectful and let them, have their time. But I always make it a point to talk to as many people as I can. But looking back, I wish I would have, taken one more stab at it. But like I said, the one thing I can take away is just, wanting to do more. And I'm not talking like be a movie star. I'm talking like leave a lasting impact like Chadwick did, to the level of admiration and respect across the world. And that's something a lot of celebrities and big name people can hopefully take notes on, because it's bigger than them. And Chadwick brought that to life, man.
And he was a very selfless person. We can see that, because most celebrities, I don't want to say most, a lot of celebrities with the selfies and everything else, you didn't see that with Chadwick. If anything was being posted, it was, I'm sure, his team, being like, hey, he's at this children's hospital over here, signing some autographs. Again, just a great sign of who he was. And I mean, I really can't imagine battling through all that, doing monster movies in that 4-year time.
Blockbuster films. Yeah. I mean, he accomplished a lot, and off of, the Wakandan salute, right? Everybody knows that because of that. But it was funny. He was talking about on a radio interview that people were saying that he's tired of it, he's sick of it, he's done doing it, and he was like, "No, not at all." He's like, "If you come up to me and tell me to do it, that's when I get pissed off because I'm not." He's like, "I'm not a monkey doing a trick." He's
Right.
like, "It's a salute. If you do it to me, I do it to you." That's what that is, and I loved how he put that because it's true. That's what it was. You watch the film, like anytime somebody did that, he did it right back. Like that was a sign of respect, love, and admiration, and it was
I
a
saw
really cool
that.
way
I
to put
saw
that.
that, and he talked about how like he wants this world to be like Wakanda, right? Like he
Of
wants
course,
everybody to feel like they can just sort of salute. And it's funny, right? I think back on when is it? It's in Infinity War, right? When
Cheeto. Yeah,
Cheadle tells Ruffalo, he's like, "It's a king, kneel," and he's like,
yeah.
"No, we don't do that here." You know what I
We
mean?
don't do that. Yeah,
But that's you know what? But that just kind of further
yeah.
perpetuates what you were saying about that salute, right? It's not about like I'm your king and you look at me like this is like, what's up, man? You know, like it's just
Love and
how you
respect.
doing? Yeah, love and
Yeah,
respect,
love,
and
respect, and
for
admiration,
sure.
and that's we definitely need more of that in this world,
It
and
takes a
it's
lot to transcend culture, man,
Yeah.
and what he's done, you know, with a movie character has done that, and you know his legacy he won't be forgotten for sure.
and like you mentioned, you referenced Blade, but is Blade ultimately a kid friendly hero?
Right.
Not really.
Right.
So I would like Chadwick set the
Yeah.
stage. He was
Yeah.
the biggest first, if you will, African American superhero, and now you have Black Adam coming out, and
Yeah.
like I said, Shang-Chi, and the diversity aspect of this beautiful industry. And it's just like seeing the videos and the photos of the young kids who are having memorials with their
Yeah.
action figures. It's devastating,
Oh
man.
God.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God. Yeah.
it just shows you how important this shit is
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
some people. Like, I mean, yeah, look at my room, look at you guys. Like, we're on a nerd podcast, a pop culture podcast.
Mhm.
Like, this stuff impacts our livelihoods,
Oh yeah.
and it's bigger than just entertainment. So, that's something that if it brings you happiness, embrace it. And this is
Yeah.
something that I know for a fact that his legacy will definitely live on, and I'm glad to say that his impact on the industry as a whole is certainly for the better, and we're going to see more diversity and inclusivity, and I know his circle and his friends will be advocates for that even more moving forward.
Yeah. Agreed. And, I said earlier before we started the podcast, we're not going to get into who replaces him
No,
just out of respect. That's neither here nor there. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, though, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's definitely one of those things to where it did transcend. Granted, like Blade was in the 90s, and it was, I will say this, if it's not for Blade, I don't think that we get a lot of superhero movies after that. So I don't think we get the X-Men films, especially for being a rated R film with a black lead character. But to everybody else, though, around the world, though, yeah, I mean, it is Chadwick Boseman. It is Black Panther. And, I mean, the roles he's played, obviously, Jackie Robinson, James Brown, Floyd Little, like even in, a small cameos, like the guy has made a gigantic impact in the industry. And it's a tough L. I was telling Saba this last night when we were getting interviewed. I know that they've kind of lowered the standards as far as getting tested for colon cancer from 50 to 45, but nowadays it's like, well, why not make it 40? I mean, none of us would ever, want to willingly sign up for that, but at the same time, though, it is one of the deadliest cancers out there, and because of someone like that, because I had to look at how old he was. Like,
yeah.
I had no idea he was 43. I thought the guy was in like his early to mid 30s, if that.
Yeah.
And for him to die of that disease, and I just turned 40. I mean, immediately I'm like, well, shit, I need to make an appointment.
You really,
I mean, at the end of the
I'm
day,
31, so like I'm already like, well, shit, maybe I should
right.
start. Like, it's and that God bless him, but maybe it's a wake up call for a lot of people to
Right.
get checked out and raise awareness on it. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it loud and proud. Fuck cancer.
Yeah.
Just straight
Yeah.
up.
Fuck cancer and sure as hell fuck 2020.
Big facts.
Goodness gracious. We can't catch any more L's. Well, fellas, before we sign off, like any other, comments, shout outs. Brad, I know that you were, you're working on the show. I don't know what all you can say right now as far as, the podcast, but, please let us know where, people that may just be tuning in and listen to the podcast where they can find you, this, that, and the other, and then say about the same.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at Brad R. Lambert. That's my top platform. You can follow all my journeys and my experiences on there. It'd be good to have you. Feel free to reach out. I'm working on a few film projects and TV projects right now. The one thing I will say, which I think was loud and clear with this whole situation, is just be kind to one another. You don't know what people are fighting and going through. Nobody knew Chadwick Boseman was fighting cancer for 4 years. Nobody. And the comments and the hate and the jokes and the derogatory shit that was thrown his way was disgusting and embarrassing. And I pity and just I feel bad for the people who have that much hate in their hearts to say and do shit like that. But, just be kind to one another. If you don't have anything nice to say, just shut your mouth. It's pretty simple. And, hopefully people can take this horrible loss and turn it into a positive by how we move forward with our lives and hopefully pick up some of the slack that has now gone with Chadwick.
Well said. Well said. Saba, any
you know what? I'm gonna this is a tribute to a great person and a great human being. So I'm gonna save all my normal plugs from my other venues. I just want to say, I want to double down on what Brad said. I think everybody love everybody. To quote our co-host Mateo.
I thought you were going to say Jackie Moon.
No.
Well, that's originally where it came from, though.
but Matt sort of coined it at this point. Just do better. Challenge yourself to do better. Don't have other people challenge you to do better. Be better for you. It's contagious. So do better.
Kindness is contagious.
And love everybody.
And the other thing too, look, nobody's fucking perfect. You certainly aren't perfect. All right? No. I'm not perfect. So keep your shit to yourself. Like, shut your mouth. Like, we've gotten this social media culture where everybody's a critic and everybody's an expert and everybody can say whatever they want to say because they're hidden behind a computer or a cell phone. Just shut the fuck up. Like, period. Like, it's if you don't have anything nice to say, just be quiet.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, elevate each other. Like, it's that simple. Say, Saba, like, I hate that hat, but you look nice today. Like, it's stuff like that where just elevate others.
Well, I knew you were going to be here, so I made sure I edged it up real nice for
you. I love it. I'm a Steeler fan. That's why I'm giving him shit. But anyways, just be kind, spread love and kindness. We certainly need it now or never.
Oh, agreed. This has been with COVID, everything else going on, it's been a brutal year.
Yeah.
Brad, thank you again so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure you check him out. You guys hang out for a second before we sign off. Saba, make sure you check out his podcast, watercooler.com. Of course, Zero Dark Nerdy. At the end of the day, though, any prayers you can send over to the Boseman family. That's what means the most right now. And that's it. So
donate to colon cancer research, show love, support his causes, continue his legacy best we can.
Exactly. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.
In my culture, death is not the end. It's more of a stepping off point. You reach out with both hands and Bast and Sekhmet. They lead you into the green veldt where you can run forever.
That sounds very peaceful.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.
Hey, it's Michelle Beadle. That's right, the Michelle Beadle. You're welcome. You love talking about sports. I love talking about sports. You know the only thing cooler than talking about sports? Sports! And right now, all your favorite sports are on Sirius XM. I'm talking every NFL game, every game from the NBA, NHL, MLB, every NASCAR race, golf major conference college sports, and all the top games in the WNBA. If it gets your heart pumping, it's on Sirius XM. So start your free trial of Sirius XM today. Visit SiriusXM.com/believe.